Sure seems like it. I've been saying time and again, if you look at this Ferguson, Missouri situation, there are forces in play, there are groups behind the scenes who are stoking protests, who are stoking criminal behavior, and who are preparing for a riot. And the more information that comes out on this police officer, the more it becomes obvious that the original stories that were told about this police officer were flat-out lies planted by people who sought to create racial strife, exploited by phony civil rights leaders and phony politicians who sought to exploit the situation for their own political benefit and their own empowerment. Now we dig a little bit deeper and we find a little bit more information thanks to Matthew Vadum at the American Thinker. Ready for this? Remember that group ACORN? ACORN's old Missouri chapter is playing at least a supporting role in the violent unrest and crime wave that has plagued Ferguson in St. Louis, Missouri, since the August 9th death of Michael Brown. Imagine if you're a resident of Ferguson and this is going on. With all the pathologies on parade right now in and around Ferguson, really, how could the loyalists of ACORN, which once claimed a membership of 400,000, stayed away from the opportunity to lynch a white police officer for doing his job, writes Mr. Vadum. The recruiting and fundraising opportunities for the cop-hating progressive movement are virtually unlimited. What's going on in Ferguson is mobocracy at its ugliest. Well, that's what I've called it. Activists are blackmailing the grand jury that is now hearing evidence against police officer Darren Wilson, who shot Brown in August reportedly in self-defense. So if the grand juries refuse to indict Wilson, racial activists are promising even more mayhem. I should say radical activists. The message is unmistakable. Indict the cop and there will be peace. Don't, and Ferguson will burn. One of the groups deeply involved in causing chaos in Ferguson is Missourians Organizing for Reform and Empowerment, or MORE, a 501c4 nonprofit group. One of the groups deeply involved in causing chaos in Ferguson is Missourians Organizing, well, I just said that. MORE is the rebranded Missouri branch of the former Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now, or ACORN. ACORN, which filed for bankruptcy in late 2010. That ACORN state chapter reconstituted itself in December 2009 as MORE, M-O-R-E, under orders from the ACORN's national headquarters. You may recall that Obama used to work for ACORN, and he represented it in court as a lawyer. This group, MORE, has been active in the protests and in efforts to free jailed demonstrators so they can continue to vandalize businesses, intimidate perceived adversaries, set fires, throw projectiles, and urine on cops, and engage in the left's usual modes of so-called nonviolent protest. MORE believes that protesters should be given a blank check to inflict whatever harm they wish on the community in pursuit of social justice. Well, isn't that the communist way? MORE is also a recipient of taxpayer funding, and to no one's surprise, it's not a good steward of those funds. MORE received $21,000 for its foreclosure prevention efforts, but did not fully comply with the rules, according to the St. Louis City Comptroller's Fiscal Monitoring Review, which was released a few days before Brown was shot. The group MORE is one of the now defunct ACORN network's most active renamed state chapters. In 2010, MORE activists did their best to cause a near riot at a Chase Bank office in a St. Louis suburb. Activists screamed, predatory lender, criminal offender. Surprised they didn't say Jews, Zionist, Israel, AIPAC, like that other piece of crap did yesterday. MORE also is trying to shake down the bank, Chase, whose philanthropic arm contributed millions of dollars to ACORN for some more money. MORE's executive director is longtime ACORN organizer Jeff Ordauer. Ordauer, an outspoken vote fraud apologist, previously ran Missouri ACORN and oversaw ACORN's Midwest operations. He was also an SEIU organizer in Texas. I told you, I smelled all this crap going on. And here it is, and there'll be more and more of it. In his online biography, Ordauer boasts that he was one of the group of founders of the Chicago-based Gender Just, which, quote, merged queer, class, and racial justice, unquote. Not my words, his. The bio states he is welcoming co-conspirators and attempts to scale up numbers of radical organizers who can financially support themselves in the work. Now, under his leadership, Moore is a magnet for the community organizers, lowlifes, and lawbreakers, now waging war in streets nightly against beleaguered Ferguson police and businesses. Following long-standing ACORN practice, Moore has been throwing out the welcome mat for criminals. In its Facebook page, the group offers fugitives an opportunity to stay one step ahead of the authorities. It recently hosted an event that allowed, turning the page, let's see, possible absconders to verify if warrants were pending for their arrest. The Facebook post asks would-be attendees as follows. Don't know if you have any outstanding bench warrants. Join Moore and Arch City Defenders for a free warrant search. It's an opportunity to find out if you have any warrants without having to worry about being arrested in the process. Oh, how cool is that? Now, criminals are, of course, naturally community organizers. Community organizing guru Saul Alinsky openly admitted his ties to the Al Capone gang in the 1930s Chicago. Alinsky befriended hitman Big Ed Stash and Frank Nitti, who took over the gang after Capone went to prison in 1931. In Alinsky's own words, Nitti took me under his wing as he explored the inner workings of the criminal underground. I called him professor, and I became his student, Alinsky said. Yes, it's the mob, the real mob. The left mob with the criminal mob, and so you have the criminal left mob. Attacking the structure of society is what criminals and community organizers do. Exactly right. As Alinsky wrote in Rules for Radicals, a community organizer must foment unrest and anarchy. The organizer's first job is community disorganization by manufacturing crises in order to inflame the community. The organizer must create the issues or problems. He must rub raw the resentments of the people of the community and fan the latent hostilities of many of the people to the point of overt expression, a.k.a. riots. The organizer must agitate to the point of conflict because without friction and controversy, people are not concerned enough to act. And having harangued the community out of its feelings of complacency, the organizer then directs its rage at specific targets and scapegoats, providing a channel into which the people can angrily pour their frustrations. That's Alinsky. So Officer Darren Wilson makes a perfect target for the highly active remnants of the ACORN activist empire, writes Matthew Vadum, an investigative journalist in Washington, author of the ACORN Obama Expose, Subversion, Inc., how Obama's ACORN red shirts are still ripping off and terrorizing American taxpayers. Beautifully put. And I'm sure much more is going to come out about what's going on there. And isn't it amazing? ABC News didn't report this. NBC, CBS, CNN, MSLSD, none of them.